Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell. Welcome to Week in Review. This is a series that we do each week, kind of giving you a short summary. People say, what are your ratings of all the games that you've done? Hey, this video tells you that. And then if you want to see more, well, you can just click the links in the description of this video and go right to the full reviews. So let's get started.
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I reviewed last week. So I reviewed Jurassic World, The Legacy of Isla Nublar, which I rated a 3. This is a legacy-style game, which it really did not work for me. I found it to be incredibly front-loaded with information and reading at the beginning of the game, and then felt very scripted, it forced you to do specific things in a specific order, which didn't allow for a lot of playing around. I reviewed The Spill, which I rated a 6 out of 10. I find this to be a by-the-numbers cooperative game with a very cool theme, and one particularly neat gimmick, this idea of course, the oil rolling dice down a dice tower, and where it comes out denotes what's happening and where you're being affected. But the rest of it feels very been there, done that for me. I reviewed Captain's War, which I also rate a 6 out of 10. This is a roll and write style game with some combat in it. Doesn't scale particularly well in my opinion. I thought it was much better with more players than with fewer. And I could definitely see replayability here being fairly low, though they do give you some extra things in the box to hopefully enhance that. Still, a lot of roll and writes out there. This one brings one new cute twist to it, but I don't think it has the legs to go the distance. I reviewed Marvel Zombies. I rate this an 8 out of 10, by the way. This is called Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance, and it is sort of a mass market style zombicide game with, of course, the Marvel license on top of it. Really good stuff, very well done. Enough missions in there, enough characters to have fun with that. Clean, streamlined system. If you are a fan of Zombicide or Marvel, or ideally both, I think you're going to have a good time with this one. And then lastly, I reviewed Evergreen, which I rate a 9 out of 10. Fantastic game. It is a game in which you are managing your own board, sort of solving your own puzzle in many ways, but then with a draft where other players might take the card you're hoping for, or, affect various scoring areas for you at the end of the game. But if you enjoy multiplayer solitaire, if you like putting your head down and doing your own puzzle, trying to, figure out your own strategies with a little bit of player interaction, and you love beautiful games too, this is a fantastic game. Evergreen is lovely. Really liked it. And that's it for me. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey everyone, Chris here. This week I took a look at 9 games, including the last 4 Squares branded review that we'll do. And that was for Jurassic World, The Legacy of Isla Nublar. I gave a 3. I greatly disliked it. I loved the tutorial scenario, and then every subsequent scenario felt like the tutorial still. It was very on rails, not very fun of a legacy game. So unfortunately, a 3. Next up, Founders of Teotihuacan. I gave a 5. I love the original game. This one has almost no zest of the original in it. It is a tile-laying game. I didn't find the polyominoes interesting, so unfortunately also a 5. But next up was Captain's War. This is a roll and write game that I gave a 6. It is really neat. I'm glad that it does different things than most other roll and write games, but also does a lot of the same things, and so not unique enough. A little bit weak at lower player counts, a little bit weak at higher player counts, so a 6. Starting here with the USPS, the Great American Mail Race, I gave a 7. I like this one. It has a stealing mechanism in it, which doesn't bother me as much as I was expecting it to, but a fun pick up and deliver game. Cute theme, has a stamp for victory points. I like that. Next up, Quacks Co. This is a kids game that I gave a 7. This is a kids version of the Quacks of Quedlinburg, and I actually like this one more than I like the Quacks of Quedlinburg. My daughter loved it. I'm happy to play this one with her. Evergreen, I gave a 7.5. This is from the designer of Photosynthesis, and you can see that. You can see those notes of it, and I really like what this one does. I prefer this to Photosynthesis. Cute engine building game, really nice looking board, good decisions, so Evergreen got a 7.5. Also getting a 7.5 is Town 66. I like this one. This is a tile-laying game. People called it Elimination Quirkle. You're kind of pushing your luck, trying to see how long you can keep laying tiles into this village, and I thought that it was a lot of fun, cute form factor from Oink. Longboard, I gave an 8. This is a Kinesia card game. It feels like a Kinesia card game, and yet it feels still a little bit fresh, and that theme really helps. I like this one a lot. And last of all, Turing Machine. I gave a 9. I like this game tremendously. It is a puzzle that uses punch cards that you overlay on top of each other, and it's so satisfying. Its form factor really has a lot to offer and really makes that theme of the Turing Machine come alive for me, so I gave it a 9, and that's been my week.
Roy Kennedy here, and I took a look at 3 different games this week. The first one is Town 66. This is a cute little oink game where you're putting out buildings and trying to press your luck to make sure that the shapes of the buildings fit as you're going head-to-head up against other players. I gave that one a 7. Super cute little light game. And then also I took a look at Mythic Mischief, and that is a very deterministic game with special powers where you're trying to get people caught by the different Tomekeeper. I gave that one an 8. And then also we took a look at Mosaic, which is a big civilization game with really quick turns. I love the technology, I love a lot of things in this game, and I love Civ-style games, and that gave that one a 9. Definitely a super awesome game that you should check out. Well, that's what I looked at this week. On to the rest.
All right, this week I looked at 8 different games. First up was Mythic Mischief. I gave this one a 7. It was a little bit too abstract for my taste. Really, really puzzly game. Just not one that I'm going to go to. I liked the theme a lot, but the actual gameplay was a little too abstract for my taste. After that, I took a look at The Spill. Also came in at a 7 for this one. I enjoyed the cooperative nature, definitely had a cool toy factor, but just didn't quite bring anything new or unique outside of the toy factor, which was on point. Also took a look at Evergreen. This one I was not as keen on, a 6.5. I think there are some plays of this that I would enjoy more than that, but it would have to be in very specific situations, and it was just didn't click with me, and that happens sometimes, right? Which is unfortunate because I thought it was very, very pretty. Loved the aesthetics of it. Also took a look at a really hot game, Marvel Zombies. This was the Spin Master one, not the Simon big epic one that's coming out later. I came in at a 7 on this one. I thought it was a very good implementation for the mass market. I think they did a really good job of what they were trying to go for, hitting that mass market appeal. I wanted more. I definitely want more. So really enjoyed it. I think they nailed what they were going for. But my personal taste, I would want something a little more, some more variety to it. Then we also looked at Jurassic World. I came in at a 3 on this one. That was a hard one to review. It was a heartbreaking one to review, but I would actively avoid playing this game. I just found the actions were obvious of what you needed to do, and it was just grueling. I did not look forward to the plays of that. I also took a look at the Goofy movie, game. 4.5 is what I'm coming in on this one as well. Didn't enjoy it either. I think this one really missed the mark, whereas Marvel Zombies hit the mark what they were trying to go for. I feel like the Goofy movie really missed it. The age of kids that are looking to a game like this and enjoy that movie, I don't think the gameplay matches that age, and so really struggle with that one. I didn't personally enjoy it, and I really think it kind of missed the mark on who it was aimed for, on their target audience. Took a look at Quacks Co, which is the opposite of that. Came in at an 8 on this, and it is a fantastic game. I love Quacks of Quedlinburg. I already kind of have my own adaptation I use with my son, but I think that if I had access to this game, I would have started him, or he would have played this game a lot younger and a lot smoother into the regular Quacks of Quedlinburg game. So Quacks Co, fantastic game. I think what I tell people is that your kid can play Candyland, get this. So much better. And finally, took a look at Captain's War. This is a roll and write, coming in at 6.5 on this one. I enjoy it. I struggle knowing what the best player count for this game is. I think at lower player counts it had issues, at higher player counts it had different issues, but those positive and negatives were opposite. So what was good at low player count was bad at high player count, and vice versa, and that just didn't really work for me. I don't know when I would play it. So enjoyed it. I found it perfectly fine, and would happily play it, with somebody if they really wanted to, but have a hard time recommending that one because it's just a little icky at all player counts. So that is it for me this week. Let's keep going.
Hello, I'm Wendy Yee, and today I'm going to talk about what I reviewed. So let's start with Goofy Movie. Goofy Movie I gave a 5. Didn't love the game, thought it was just super basic, not very interesting. The set collection could have been better. I wish there was so much more for that. Great American Mail Race, I gave that a 7. It's got some really cool pick up and deliver stuff going on, and I especially love the movement cards. They're very interesting. the way that you can move on certain lanes and not other lanes. And there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. Founders of Teotihuacan, I gave a 7. I really enjoy spatial puzzles and Tetris-y-like stuff. And so this game had a lot of that going on. Thought it was really good, just like a lot of good fun stuff in there. And then I gave Turing Machine an 8. Turing Machine is such good deduction. It's very computer-like, and I really appreciate how the cards are set up and how you can place things together and get a real answer. I definitely have fiddled a little bit with the pieces, but that's a me error. And if you watch my review, it's definitely a me error on there. But I really enjoyed Turing Machine. I think there's a lot of fun, and I hope to continue playing it. So that's what I reviewed this week. Thanks for joining me.
Hey there, everybody. It's Mike DeLisio, and this week I reviewed a number of games, starting off with Jurassic World: Legacy of Isla Nublar. I rated this a 3. Unfortunately, this game was a huge miss for me. Many reasons why that I don't have the time to point out all here, so please check out that review to get full thoughts. This is a game that I had high hopes for, and it really did not work for me at all. Coming up next is Turing Machine, a game that I did not rate much higher. This is a 4 out of 10. I do think that for a number of people, this will be a very good game for them, but this does not work for my brain. I found it frustrating and tedious and more like work than like fun. I do think that there are plenty of other people out there whose brains work similarly to me that will have a difficult experience like I did, but there are players out there who probably will love it as well. Coming up next is The Spill, which is a cooperative game with a cool theme where you are trying to save animals from oil that has been spilled into the ocean. I liked it. It's a very solid cooperative game, but I don't feel like it really does anything innovative in this space. It feels very kind of by the numbers, and it needs a little bit more of a spark for it to be one I would recommend. Coming up next is Town 66. I rated this a 7 out of 10. This is a small box Oink Japanese publisher game, a tile laying game where you are placing out houses into a neighborhood, but this is really a themeless game with a really interesting couple of strategic timing decisions that elevate it to a recommendation. I also reviewed Longboard, which I gave also a 7 out of 10. This is a Reiner Knizia card game, hand management, has some similarities to Lost Cities, probably don't like it as much as that, but a really solid game from Dr. Knizia. And then also Marvel Zombies, I rated a 7 out of 10. This is built off of the Zombicide system, and this particular product, the Heroes Resistance version of Marvel Zombies, is being aimed towards the kind of big box mass market stores, and I think for that audience, it does a very fine job. I don't love the Zombicide system, but the combination of Marvel's heroes with that system is one I could recommend 7 out of 10. Then we've got Mosaic, which is a civilization-themed game. I'm giving an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this game. It has the things that I like in civilization games. Quick turns, a lot of positive reinforcement where you feel like you are getting bigger and better and progressing as a civilization, and not a lot of negative interaction, which I don't tend to love in civ games. And then finally, Mythic Mischief, which I rated an 8.5, a seal of excellence. This is really an abstract game, but it has a great theme, slightly asymmetric, where you are playing different factions in a magical library, trying to read these tomes without getting caught by the Tome Keeper, which is a semi-automated figure that moves around the board. So you're trying to position yourselves in such a way that you're getting the tomes, but you're putting your opponents in the path of the Tome Keeper. Really solid game. All right, well, that's it for me this week. This is Mike DeLisio. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, so for me, first of all, I reviewed a giant game called Monuments, which doesn't need to be that big and kind of felt like a ripoff of Concordia and Scythe, just kind of a pale imitation of those games, 5 out of 10. We reviewed Founders of Teotihuacan, or Teotihuacan. You know what? I can never pronounce it. It doesn't matter. I like the original game, but this just felt like there was a whole lot missing. It wasn't very exciting. 5 out of 10. The Great American Male Race. Because it has a take that element to it, and there's a bit of clunk. The game doesn't scale well. I had to give it a 5.5. I like the theme. I like the idea, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. Fairy Lights, a kind of push your luck style game. This one I gave a 6. It's fine, but it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. Ticket to Ride, San Francisco. This will give a 6.5. A little bit, maybe for me. This is the fourth in the small series of Ticket to Rides. But this one kind of feels like all the rest of them. It didn't feel very different. The design space here is small, so there's that. Hand-to-Hand Wombat. This one gets a 7. It is a dexterity game with a trader, which sounds silly, but it's fun to play and even more fun to watch. A good party icebreaker. The Spill. This is a very basic cooperative game with a cool gimmick of a dice tower with oil dice coming out. I like it. 7 out of 10. Thunder Rolls. This is a racing game. It's a little clunkier than it should be, but it also has some really good feel to it of racing and NASCAR. 7 out of 10. Mythic Mischief. This is a strategic back and forth. I think it's going to have a small group of players who really like it, but those who like a chess-like fantasy type game will enjoy it. 8 out of 10. Evergreen, the sequel of sorts to Photosynthesis by the same designer, but a little bit different. A cool drafting, filling up a board with trees and trying to not have your trees block your other trees. Some cool ideas in it. 8 out of 10. Longboard. This is a little Kinesia card game that I enjoyed a lot. Felt almost a little like Lost Cities for 4 players, but there's some more to it than that, with a little nice motif. 8 out of 10. Quacks Co. This one gets an 8 out of 10 for kids. This is the kids version of the Quacks of Quedlinburg. I really enjoyed this with kids, and it works well for that thing, for them. Mosaic gets an 8.5, a big giant civilization game that plays fast. Love the options, love how smoothly this game plays. Really worth the time to try it out. And Turing Machine. It's basically a solo game in my opinion, but is it ever pure, cool logic. Love the logic in this game. 8.5. I also did my top 10 games from Repos Productions. We did our top 10 games that should be in the Board Game Geek top 10. How does that even make sense? Well, watch the video to see. I did some more shelf reviews. I talked about how I upgraded the game Puerto Rico. And of course, we did all our live stuff, crowd surfing, board game breakfasts, and more. Alrighty, well, that's it for Week in Review. I'll see you soon. As soon as I'm taking my daughter to college, so I guess I better get around to doing that. We'll be back this week, though, with a lot more stuff. Until then, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching Week in Review on the Dice Tower.